This evening is truly magnificent.
Quite simply perfect.
To a wonderful night.
Imagine this. The garden is lit with candles. An orchestra plays. The night air of Buenos Aires is warm and golden it is, wraps around 100 guests in their finest clothes. A young man takes a ring from his pocket. He asks the woman he loves to come closer. He goes down on one knee. And in the exact moment, the precise, irreversible second that he places that ring on her finger, something moves in the darkness between the bushes, something that was never supposed to be there. Buenos Aires, late 19th century. People called it the Paris of South America, and nowhere was that more true than in the grand mansions of Barracas, where the old money of the Republic built its private empires along a street once known simply as the Long Road, today called Avenida Montes de Oca. That street still exists, and at number 110, next to what is now the Hospital de Niños Pedro Elizalde, there is a palace. French Beaux-Arts architecture, stone lions guarding the entrance, a centenarian park behind iron gates. Locals call it La Casa de los Leones. If you look closely at the sculptures in the garden, you will find one that doesn't quite look like decoration. It shows a lion attacking a man. There is a reason that sculpture exists. The man who built this world was Eustoquio Díaz Vélez. He was a son of a general, heir to a name written in Argentine history in the blood of the independence wars. His father had fought alongside Belgrano, who had carried the flag and built the nation. The son built something else, a fortune comparable only to the Anchorenas, the Alzagas, the Guerreros, the most powerful families in Buenos Aires. His estancias stretched across the southern coast of Buenos Aires province, all the way to what is now the city of Necochea, land that his family would eventually donate to found that coastal city. His cattle operations were vast enough that the man barely needed to think about money. In 1880, Díaz Vélez chose to settle in Barracas, on the Calle Larga, close to the Puente Galvez, the only bridge that crossed the Riachuelo heading south toward his properties. He acquired a French-style mansion, elegant and imposing, and he made it his own in the most extravagant way he knew. Eustoquio Díaz Vélez brought from Africa 3 lions. During the day, the lions were locked in cages built directly beneath the house, accessible only through a staircase on the exterior wall. During the night, every night, the cages opened and the lions were released into the garden. They moved through the shadows like dark water. They owned the grounds the way their master owned everything else, completely and without apology. When there were events at the mansion, dinners, gatherings, celebrations, the lions stayed caged. That was the only thing standing between the world of the guests and the world of the beasts. The rule never failed. Until the night it did. It was 1911, and Díaz Vélez's daughter, Maria Matilda, was in love. The man that she had chosen was Juan Aristobolo Pitamilio. He was from an Italian family that had built a serious fortune as cattle producers in Uruguay. He was, by every measure, a perfect match. The two families were already connected. The fathers were friends. The engagement was organized at the mansion on Montes de Oca, the biggest celebration in the house of the bride. Tables were set out in the garden. The orchestra tuned their instruments under the open Buenos Aires sky. 100 guests arrived in their finest. The night was warm and clear, and the lions, of course, were caged. Except one cage had been closed badly, a latch not quite caught, a door not quite sealed. The lion moved it with one paw and slipped out silently into the garden, into the shadows between the carefully tended bushes, while the orchestra played and the guests laughed and no one noticed. No one noticed until it was too late. At that exact moment, Juan Aristobulo Pitamilio stood up, asked the orchestra to stop, and called for the attention of every person present. He thanked the guests for coming. He asked Maria Matilda to come closer. He reached into his pocket, went to one knee, and placed a ring on her finger. The guests erupted in applause, and under the noise of that applause, swallowed by it, invisible inside it, came the sound of the lion leaving the bushes. The screaming started a moment later. Díaz Vélez ran to his office, grabbed his shotgun, came back, and fired. The lion fell. However, Juan Aristobulo Pitamilio was already dead, lying in the garden of the mansion where he had come to celebrate his future. The family of the groom blamed Eustoquio Díaz Vélez entirely. They could not understand how a man could keep wild, carnivorous animals inside a property where human beings gathered. But it was not the Pitamilio family whose words cut deepest. It was Maria Matilda. She turned on her father with a grief that had curdled into something darker. She blamed him. She cursed him. She had loved only one man in her life, and one of her father's animals had taken him from her in the most brutal way imaginable. In the moment of their greatest happiness, in front of everyone they knew. She could not survive that weight. Not long after, Maria Matilda took her own life. Eustoquio Díaz Vélez, the most powerful man on the Calle Larga, the son of a general, the man who had imported lions from Africa because guard dogs weren't enough for him, collapsed entirely. He shut himself in his room. He stopped visiting his estancias. He barely left. Some accounts say that in a state approaching madness, he ordered the remaining lions killed. His obsession with them, that dark, inexplicable love, never left him. Because before the end, he commissioned something extraordinary. 2 sculptures of his lions, placed throughout the garden, stone monuments to the beasts that had destroyed his family. And among them, one sculpture in particular, a lion attacking a man. It stands there today, at Avenida Montes de Oca 110, Barracas, right next to the hospital. Today the house is a foundation. The gates are there, the park is there, and the sculptures are there. People who work inside say that at night, sometimes, they hear things, screaming, crying. Those who know the legend say the screams belong to the groom. The crying belongs to the bride. A man who believed he could tame the wildest thing in the world discovered, in one terrible second, that some things were never meant to be caged. If you ever visit Buenos Aires, walk down Avenida Montes de Oca in the neighborhood of Barracas. Find the palace at number 110, next to the Hospital de Niños Pedro Elizalde. Look at the sculptures in the garden, and remember what you heard tonight. Stay curious. Stay haunted.